Hey YouTube, happy Valentine's Day night. And hi Civet, sorry I can't get you because of this bloody virus thing, but hopefully you watch this, so miss you. That was just horribly cheesy, wasn't it? Right, so apologies. Yeah, so this is my Gibson SG. I bought this in, I had it at the Millennium of 2000 because I remember playing it up at my pal Michael's house because we played Hell's Bells when the Bells were playing for the Millennium. So I had it. I reckon I probably bought it in '98 or very roundabout there. The serial number is dead hard to read on this one. It's like it was always dead hard to read, but it's since had a headstock repair. My pal put a bit of red paint on it, and it's kind of made it even harder to read. But it seems to be 00185 which if you type that into the decoder, it comes out as 1975, and it's like they didn't make this model in 1975. So I think it must be a 9. So I think it must be 95. But that doesn't really tie in either, because unless I had a really hard life for the 3 years it existed before I bought it, because it was pretty chipped and chunked, and most of the damage that was done to it was done before I got it. And there's like no way, if a guitar's only 3 years old or 4 years old, well now I would say, if it's 10 years old, it's brand new, you know what I mean? Whereas this one's like, it was pretty much well used when I got it, so I don't know what happened. I'll need to have a wee look into it to see when they started making this model. I wonder if it could be a wee bit earlier. Back when they made this model, when I was in my starting to play the guitar phase, Gibson only made 2 SGs. They made the standard and the special. The special came in Ferrari red, white, and they probably called ivory, and black. And the standard came in black and just the normal sort of cherry wood colour. And that was it. It's not like now when you get 50, or I think they've maybe reduced it. Is it this year or last year they kind of reduced the number of guitars they had? But for years and years they only made the 2 models SG. And I think, to be honest, with the Les Paul as well, you got the special, which was the equivalent of this, the standard and the custom. And I think the custom only came in black, and the standard came in a couple of colours, and the special came in 3 or 4 colours. That was kind of it. So they had like it's not like now, not like these days. I was told when I bought this, I didn't buy it new. Around the time when I bought this, that the specials and the standards were both made on the same assembly line, and they were both the same guitar. It's just the ones, because the standards got a nice, like a see-through finish. They were the ones that were the nicest looking pieces of wood, whereas this one's maybe, I don't know, it won't have knots in it, but maybe it's like sometimes it's like sort of light patches. It kind of doesn't look fantastic. So what they did was, once they'd made the bodies, they chose the nicer ones became standards, and the sort of ones that had flaws in the grain or whatever just weren't pretty became specials, and they were coated in this. I keep saying it's coated in red plastic. It's not plastic, it's like a poly finish. But incidentally, the red one's pretty rare. These are worth a bit of money these days. You don't see very many red ones. The black and the white ones you see an awful lot more of, but the red, you don't see very many red SGs. Where was I? Yes, so the bodies were graded that way, and then the fingerboards were put on. The only difference between this and the standard of the time was these are the same pickups, but the standards got metal covers on them. They've got binding on the fretboard and what do you call it? Trapezoid inlays, fret markers, not just dots. Whereas this one's actually got an ebony fingerboard, which I don't know why they were putting that in a special, but there you go. So makes it a wee bit more desirable, but more interesting. A jet black sort of looks like glass ebony fingerboard. Cluson Deluxe tuners, Gibson Deluxe tuners, Cluson style Gibson Deluxe tuners. And what I've just noticed is like, see, look at the checking that's now appeared. That was definitely not there last time I saw this guitar a couple of years ago or 3 years ago. So that's happened in a bag, just sitting there. Kind of makes it look a bit more interesting. I was always amazed that my Epiphone SG, which I had as a guitar I had before this, had like a mother of pearl inlaid logo saying Epiphone, and when you bought the Gibson, it's just a gold sticker. Yeah. It also says SG on the truss rod cover, where the Epiphone one says Gibson. Yeah, so this one's seen some action. I used to play in a band called G-Rock, which is basically just me when I did any gigs or anything like that. I did one, but basically just me and my pals used to get pissed and go into the studio on a Friday night. Which I'm back into the studio on a Friday night now again. The reason thinking any decent band has got a gig on a Friday night, so doesn't go to the studio. So that's why we get to go. That's why the place was always empty. This has seen a lot of buckfast drinking rock action. Yeah. So this is actually, to be honest, when I had this, even I used this because it sounded better than my Epiphone, but my Epiphone played so much easier. That was pre the days I knew what a truss rod was and that this needed it adjusted. That's probably why I got it cheap. Actually, my pal Scott just got one. Not this model, a much later one, a 2015 or something, I think, or 2010, for cheaper than I got this. So this is no longer the cheapest SG I've ever seen. But I think the reason it was cheap was because the neck was. So it sounded amazing, but it was a right bitch to play because the action was high, and if you brought the action down, it buzzed. Just the whole now. What a great day it was when I bought those the Allen key, the truss rod spanners you get. They're not what they're called. I don't even know what they're called. Truss rod adjustment tools. It was actually not for this guitar, but I bought like a set of 3, which you can't seem to get anymore. It was like they were a £5 each, and it was 3 for £7 for the 3 sizes you're ever going to find. So I've got the truss rod adjustment thing, and I adjusted it, and it just went whoa and became amazing. I used to play this, and I used to always play it on the neck pickup because the other guitarist, my pal Peg, had a Telecaster. So when you're using the bridge pickup, the Telecaster was always pure sharp and treble, so I would use the neck. Gonna come through. Whoa. Yeah, so unlike nearly all my other guitars, I've only ever had one SG. Well, I've had, apart from the Epiphone one, which I kept because it was my first real guitar. I've never seen, and I had an inkling to buy another SG. I actually stuck P90s in my Epiphone one, so that would be the one thing I would look at. Actually, to be fair, there was a guy selling a Burnley SG last night on Facebook, and I was sorely tempted by it. I wanted a couple £100 for it. But it was it's just an old Japanese one, so I don't need another SG. Things once I got this, my SG cravings were thoroughly satisfied. This was the one I wanted. It's just still the one I want. You know, I mean, if God forbid if it gets pinched or something, I would just buy one the same, I think. But so this is my validator for when I'm sitting there slagging off Gibsons and Fenders for not being as good as, you know, much cheaper guitars that nobody likes. So when I sit there and go up here, yeah, this Washburn Falcon is miles better than a Gibson. I do have a Gibson. It's miles better than it. It's a nice guitar. It's like I suppose it's iconic. But like many people, still many people today, probably not so much people who watch this channel, but under the impression, I was always under the impression if you bought your starter guitar, £100, whatever, you know, mine was a Horner Rockwood, or, you know, it's like a Strat copy or something like that. And that was fine for sort of learning your first few chords. And when you started jamming with your pals around at their house, you really needed to get a sort of much better level instrument. That was your Epiphone, sort of £200-300 was what you needed for that. And then if you want to be in a band, like playing with drums and stuff, you needed a real guitar, you know, a proper Gibson or a American Fender. And I think that's still an awful lot of people think that. So when I bought this was when I bought this. I would have had the Epiphone. I would have had one bass, the Schecter bass, which is the most expensive thing I've ever bought. This is the second most expensive guitar I've ever bought, and yeah, so and an acoustic. So when I first had this, I probably had 4 guitars, and it's like I've got 4 guitars in any corner of this house. It's like there's not 4 guitars in the bathroom. I didn't want I thought maybe the moisture would damage them. So there's no guitars in the bathroom, but everywhere else is just full of them. Yeah, and then I'm just talking. Fuck it. The guitar that changed everything for me was a Hondo Telecaster, which if you look back to, probably I don't know if I had YouTube at the time or I had even had a computer. About 10 years ago, maybe a wee bit more than that, I bought this Hondo Telecaster, and it was it had a leopard skin scratch plate, which I now, after I got home and looked it up online, in fact I looked it up online, so I must have had a computer, I realised it was a Prince guitar, so just like, it had a pointy headstock, but it was just a Telecaster, and it was amazing. Like, it was just, I was sitting there, it was only like 40 quid or something like that. I've since sold it, unfortunately. I should have kept it, but I ended up more than tripling my money on it, because I just bought it cheap. But at the time I was sort of looking at it and I was like, you know, if it had been 30 quid, I'd just have bought it. As I told this the guy in Cash Converters, you know, if it had been 30 quid, I would have bought it, no questions, and if it had been 50 quid, I wouldn't even have looked at it. Because it was 40, it was right on my edge of sort of, oh, I don't know. So what I did was, I said, right, I'm probably going to take it, but I'm going to go out for a fag, think about it, make sure. So what I did was I went out for a fag, and across the road's Guitar, the big massive guitar shop that's got thousands of guitars, and they had a Badja Telecaster, a Fender one, and I think it was 700 quid, and I went in and played it, and it wasn't better than the Hondo, and it was just like, how's this possible? How can a Fender not be better than this Honda or whatever? It's Hondo, but I didn't know that. I didn't know who Hondo were at the time. I now know it was a Samick Korean one, so it was built by the same folk that build the Epiphone guitars, but it was made of nicer wood. You know, it's like it had a bound top, and it was like the wood was this fantastic looking grain and stuff like that. And you looked at the Fender one, and it was kind of plain and shite looking, and it was like, what's going on? And the neck was better than the Hondo as well. It was like bizarre. So this is the last expensive guitar I bought, the last name brand one. But I still need an SG because of Tony Iommi and was it Paul McCartney played one? No, George Harrison plays one, and Paperback Writer, and that's me trying to use my Washburn Stack in a Box pedal, trying to not be too distorted. But back to the rap. That's probably a total bastardisation of it. It might not even be in the right key. I'm not taking this into the studio with the Cranking House yet, because I think they might like it and they want me to use it again. I want to be using something a bit more extreme and obscure. Fancy gigging with just an SG. Okay, fair enough, it's a red one and it's got the ebony fingerboard, so it's a bit interesting, but I want to be using something a bit more mad. You know, I think that one, perhaps that Ibanez is rather special. Also, I suppose actually think about it, is this, because as I've had this more than 20 years, it's definitely now a vintage SG. Yeah. song jam today. I think the thing about this guitar is though, unlike nearly every other guitar I've got, this one I've actually played a lot because it was my main guitar for years. I was only in the studio with that band G-Rock for a couple of years, but after that, this was the one I used to play. I used to play this through my my BB Blaster amp, which was a wee shitty tranny amp that size. Even though I had the Softtech, believe it, I had the world's best amp, but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't do distortion down quiet, so I needed to. It wasn't until later when I got the rat pedal that I could actually use that. But even with that I used to sit in my room, like connected up and everything, and I would use this wee 10-watt BB Blaster and play this through it. Actually thinking about it, the guitar that replaced this was that as the guitar I played all the time. So I mean, I learnt pretty much everything I know on this guitar. So it's kind of got a sort of strange. I'm not really feeling it just now because it's not that exciting. Also, I spend so much time slagging off Fenders and Gibsons. I find it hard to, play one. I feel like I'm betraying what I always say with these things. Well, it's a lovely guitar. So it is. What I remember thinking when I got this was because I had the Epiphone one before, still got the Epiphone one, it's a 95 as well, the same year as this, so it had terrible pickups in it though. It was an old Samick one, but it was a hell of a lot nicer looking than this one. This was a bit kind of lumpy, the paintwork's not very good on it. There's sort of wee bits where it's kind of, you can see with the bad connections and everything was just a bit sort of flung together really quickly and flung out the door, whereas the Epiphone was all shiny and had all the fancy appointments and it was a much better finished guitar. This one did have these pickups in it though, so it just sounded fantastic. The tuners are shit. They are the original Gibson Deluxe ones, but they are rubbish. I just haven't changed. I've actually got another set of Sperzel ones that I got on a guitar, which I was thinking of putting on, or Scholler. I knew it had an S on it. There's Scholler ones that look kind of the same, but I can't really be bothered changing them. I think they do the job. I think one of the reasons that they use these this type of tuner is because they're very light compared to your Grovers and stuff. Because as you notice, this SG, unlike a hell of a lot of them, isn't neck heavy. It sits perfectly. So I think you could possibly ruin. It makes such a difference to guitar. I did the same thing. I've still got it, a West Tone Clipper 6 Telecaster that I bought without any parts on it. So I put, tuners for a $5 from China on it just to make it work, and it was amazing. And then I put Grovers on it, and it suddenly, the whole guitar just changed because it suddenly just became that bit neck heavy. I mean, it's really silly that can make such a difference from a guitar being pure amazing to being, it's all right. It's like you play a guitar sometimes and it's not. I don't really like it. You can't really nail exactly what it is, but something like that can just totally put everything off kilter. There's so many things that have to be right to make it the best guitar. And saying that, I do have neck heavy guitars that I love and are fine, and it's like the neck heaviness is part of what makes that guitar good. If that makes sense. I don't think it does. Yeah, so here we go for my collection validator. I do have a Gibson. I've actually got a Gibson EBO as well, a bass. So I do have Gibsons, I do have Fenders, and partly down to price, but I buy Yamahas and Ibanez and West Tone and Aria and Washburn and Vantage because I will just say it, pretty much all of them are a better guitar than this. This is a Gibson SG though, which I do understand an element of. I had this argument with my pal Jerry. I played his Les Paul. If you look back, 6 months ago, he spent 1,100 quid on a Gibson Les Paul, and it was like pure, yeah. But the thing is, as he said, but it's a Gibson Les Paul, and you're like, well, yes, that cannot be denied. It is a Gibson Les Paul, and it looks like the one Jimmy Page played, so it's kind of that is enough to make it worth hundreds of money. And this one, yes, it is a Gibson SG, so there you go. So therefore, it's better than that Yamaha. It's better than that. You know, it's better than the Ibanez Destroyer just because it's a Gibson SG. You know, it's like, but what about the pickup? No, it's a Gibson SG, which I understand. So I've got one. Yeah, sorry if I'm being quite aggressive. But as long as people keep buying these things. They changed these a lot as well. But I remember buying, when I bought this, a few years after this, they stopped doing the sort of red plasticky one. They brought out the SG Faded, and the SG Faded was so much cheaper. It was like £300 cheaper than it was when the era when I bought this. This was about 700 quid, I seem to remember, or 600 or 700 quid new when I bought it. And suddenly they started coming out at 500, and it's like, whoa, how could it be 5 years later and they're making SGs and they're actually cheaper than they were? I mean, it's like, well, if you take into inflation, they should be more expensive. So the reason they cost, you know, a couple of £100 less is because they cost half as much to build. Yeah, so that's my view anyway. Lots of people probably slag them off. Oh, I've got a 2010 SG, it's the best guitar in the world. Yes, I believe you, but cheaper built than these. Half the price of this one, the faded one that came out in about 2000 and whatever it was. Half the price to build, I would imagine. Rocking.